because water is a connector, bringing together many other important aspects of human life, including agriculture, food, energy, ecosystem, and health. An integrated and holistic approach is needed. Water is at the core and is connecting all SDGs. In order to accelerate the implementation of SDG 6, which is unfortunately off track, the UN has launched this year in New York the SDG 6 Global Accelerator Framework, which has a potential also to have impact on other SDGs. We should manage water with other important factors in cities and seek cooperation and collaboration with other partners, bringing our boundaries and silos from technical advances, population and economic growth, and the competing demands of diverse sectors. Urban water resilience is urgently needed to ensure that no one is left behind.
That the dates had been chosen to come as a preamble to the event that has been co-organized on the 12th of December by the Secretary General of the United Nations and the British Prime Minister in order to mark the 5th anniversary of the Paris Agreement. I want to add here that the form of video conference presents, in my eyes, an immense advantage, making it accessible to thousands of people, and in particular students who would never have been able to travel to come here, to be able to follow the communications and intervene by asking questions. It is clear that this model will be called upon to develop over the years to not only limit the carbon footprint of all big meetings that take place all over the world, all through the year, but also, as I was saying initially, to increase the dissemination of knowledge and experiences towards new publics. This is the reason for the online pre-conference. Obviously, the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and in the face of the health crisis that we are facing up to today, it is important to emphasize the importance of sanitation in the analysis of the COVID in Paris and the Paris conglomeration. This is a project called OBPIN, SIAAP, to be able to work with the urban unions, to be able to work in a concerted manner and not in silos, cross-cutting manner of working. That is very important for us, and that is the example of the action that we carry out with the household waste union, the SICTOM in the Paris suburban regions, and in Manila, there's been setting up of a project in this field, and of course the importance of the link between local representatives, scientists, operators. This is the model that structures the Alliance of Megacities for Water and Climate.
Water is the blue dimension, as we have the green dimension. These are the constituent elements of our environment, of our life. Where there is water, there is life, and that is very important. And this is what we need to work on together in the greater Paris metropolis, like elsewhere in the world. There will never be too many of us working on this issue. Elected representatives, companies, public services, scientists, all those who help to better understand, to come up with innovation so that we can meet different requirements. Some want more housing, more density, more environment protection, more jobs, more industries, but at the same time, better air quality, better water quality. Sometimes it might seem paradoxical. Well, this is the equation we must solve together. And this pre-conference, which will lead to a conference in 2021, I hope in person this time, I hope we will all have together part of the solution that will enable us to live happily, peacefully, where we choose to be. We live in a world where we do not have enough water, and we are exerting pressure. There are a lot of wastage, and now we have the COVID-19 pandemics. Now, all these risks are changing the way the catchment areas are managed and extreme events are increasing. This is the reason why we really need to build on conventional and non-conventional resources in order to meet the challenges, namely the increase in water demand. We need to improve governance. We need to improve our relationship and partnership with the private sector.
In 2018, the city of Wake in Cote d'Ivoire, West Africa, with about 1.5 million inhabitants, experienced an extreme water shortage. Therefore, the drying up of the local dam and consequently, the water shortage may be related to anthropic activities.
The number one source of pharmaceuticals in water is excretion. This is true for human pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceutical products will end up in the sewage system and in the environment. And the scientific community agrees that the number one diffuse source of pharmaceutical pollution is mainly households and not hospitals.
How often do you see news reports about floods or flood events in Africa, South America, South Asia, or small island development states such as the Caribbean? Probably every few weeks, right? And that's because these flood events occur frequently in urban areas across tropical rainforest, monsoon, and savanna climatic regions in the global south. This year alone, the Emergency Events Database reported that over 90 floods have occurred.
Water security in the urban areas and the city's resilience to water-related perturbations, whether it's quality, quantity, or other issues, they're closely linked to national, international policy measures and the other legal obligations that municipalities are required to meet. And although the EU legal frameworks provide a holistic assessment, they are not so successful at providing the metrics. The development of a robust and clear and straightforward and user-friendly framework for NBS assessment that is underpinned by policy and sustainable development goals will result in a more successful implementation.
The water issue, if you look at the two photos at the bottom of the slide, you will see there's some problem with the water quality in the urban canals of Ho Chi Minh City. Sometimes there are some mass deaths of fish in the canals 1 or 2 times per year. Because these canals receive the domestic wastewater of more than 9 million inhabitants in Ho Chi Minh City, but there is only 20% of wastewater is treated before discharging to the canals. The problem comes from the lacking of the wastewater treatment plant in Ho Chi Minh City.
The SIAAP and all Paris area stakeholders have undertaken huge transformation of the wastewater facilities and management to be compliant with the Water Framework Directive. That means that it's not sufficient to remove only the nitrogen and phosphorus as requested by the Urban Water Wastewater Directive. That means that we have to make sure that the surface water quality meets the requirements of this actually it's not new, not anymore, water directive.
One of the major challenges in the supplying potable water, like in all developing nation cities, is the non-revenue water. It's around 40 to 50%, and this is the official record. And there has been very less survey done in this regard. Might be more than that also. And more than 20,000 tube wells, I already said, which are not regularized. And issues like the more and more the groundwater is restricted, the challenges comes with the impurities, the contamination of that one.
And the Jaipur cities are presently facing the acute problem of fluoride and nitrate and TDS, high fluoride, high nitrate, and high TDS. And this is a big challenge because this is leading to the various kinds of diseases.
Historically, the first concerns about water quality were not agricultural ones, but infectious diseases mainly in the 19th century, early 20th century. But as you all know, the 60s and the 70s brought about the farming revolution with mechanization and massive use of chemicals, which gave birth to dramatic rise in nitrates and pesticides rates in water, as you can see on the graph on the left, which shows ancient records of nitrate rates in water, going sometimes over legal quality standards. Now, water, of course, is treated especially for pesticides and other parameters, but to reach good quality on the tap.
When we talk of water resilience, the terminology is not very common when you look into literatures or the usage. It's more adapted from the existing definitions and terminology that talks of resilience of water systems or socio-ecological systems. It talks of the capacity, when we talk in the context of urban, the city's capacity to function in general in order to provide services and managing resources, but also enduring disasters. And this is not limited to climate disasters alone. Resilience also talks about the other shocks and stresses that cities may face and coping and adapting to that. And this could also mean something around the health crisis that we are currently facing around COVID.
Effective resiliency policies to address sinking and proper integration of water and land use policies goes beyond infrastructure and technical solutions. It is key to identify the economics and governance conditions that could help sinking cities increase their resilience. This also considers that resilient cities are those that are inclusive, smart, and circular. These certain aspects highlight the importance of engaging with all stakeholders, including the urban poor and populations living in informal settlements, as these groups are often the highest at risk of experiencing floods, landslides, and other water-related risks. Cities should work towards resilience by promoting water efficiency in using smart water systems to collect data within city water use and its surrounding coastal or riverine waters. Additionally, resilience must include a circular approach in which cities work on innovative practices and a long-term cohesive vision to efficiently use and reuse available water resources.
Rainwater should be deemed a resources by all stakeholders. That's the main vision. Then you need a frame of action, a strategy to support sustainable management of stormwaters in cities. And the third level is to carry out projects, exemplary projects that show how we can replan and reorganize our urban systems to integrate water. And all that requires a common technical and cultural knowledge base.
Just looking at water, the key thing is the key message is there is an opportunity to be seized right now, because there is today a combination of system thinking, blockchain logic, all the most advanced state-of-the-art technology, and also digital tools, which allow to build and run a sort of innovative multi-data, multi-actors digital platform. And this is a key thing if we assume, if we look from a comprehensive view on water issues, is to think, to fill the gap between thinking, deciding, and acting. And this is today, the thing we can consider is that we are able to offer to the best political, strategical, and tactical options to the decision makers. And this is a point, taking into account that the key things is in a combination of three pillars: knowledge, education, governance.
Green infrastructure is very much a cross-cutting approach to stormwater management, which we really desperately need. We can't only do technology, only focus on vegetation and the social elements. We need to weave these together to get this going. So there are multiple objectives.
Why should agencies collaborate? By working together, they can make better use of resources, repurposing wastewater and stormwater and other impaired sources as a water supply. They can more easily achieve economies of scale and economies of scope, increasing benefits and reducing costs. And they can communicate more uniformly with the public, reducing confusion.
Why do we need a water integrity risk index? The reasons are manifold. First, the usual high-level, typically country-level, perception-based corruption indicators are inadequate for aiding policy in a particular sector for particular organizations or particular localities. In addition, the usual suspects in this field, the usual indicators, tend to use surveys of perceptions, either of experts or business elites or the general population. We recognize the literature which outlines the inadequacies of these indicators.
Some factors that make the urban water and sanitation utilities especially vulnerable to corruption. Firstly, they operate typically as natural monopolies and manage technically complex projects that require high initial capital and maintenance costs, and usually employ a large number of people. And as we all know, the water and sanitation sector governance is quite fragmented. So all these factors make water and sanitation utilities a potential hotspot for corruption.
Policymakers need to find solutions towards climate resilience, particularly for urban areas. And one way to do that is to install green infrastructure, or GI. Green infrastructure absorbs heavy downpours or stormwater and thereby reduces the runoff. And these measures can be very diverse. They can include measures such as parklands, rain gardens, stormwater trees, but also green roofs. And the implementation of such GI measures has a huge potential. According to the US Environmental Protection Agency, green infrastructure can potentially reduce stormwater runoff by up to 99%. So it can thereby save millions of dollars of flood loss and protect human life.
So in the context of drought and population growth, Arizona decided to store its surplus of Colorado River and effluent into the ground. So this is a technique called managed aquifer recharge. Different recharge tools can be used. On the photo, you can see a basin in which Colorado River is being recharged. So eventually, this water will reach the underlying aquifer. Now, water can also be injected into an aquifer by using a well. So this water can be recovered by pumping when there's a need for it. So legally, when you recover water, you are pumping back renewable water, even though it comes from the aquifer.
Limited water access is a major danger to development, not just a feature of poverty. And so major investment is necessary in Lima's water system to provide access to all citizens. We recommend, one, a faster formalization of the water system using innovations in water financing and technical solutions, as said before. Secondly, better organization of scarce water between human consumption and other use. Furthermore, increasing political will and creating a culture that discourages water waste. And four, testing innovative water conversion methods.
Cities and developing cities face recurrent weather events such as floods and droughts, which have a negative impact on water distribution, and this situation will become worse due to climate change. By 2050, it is expected that 87% of the populations will live in cities, but in the same time, the supply of water will cover less than 60% of demand. And this will, of course, have an impact on inequalities. But how can a city quickly understand which elements of the water cycle are sustainable, which ones need to be improved? And the city blueprint is a simple and extensive tool to do such an assessment on water management and waste management in cities.
Technology does not always mean progress, but we will see with the three examples that we will discuss today that it can be very helpful to manage better, in a better way, sanitation and drinking water systems.
So we know that urbanization is growing in the last decades and will continue to grow in the coming decades. And this urbanization through the surfaces that are impermeabilized affect the cycle of water with the resulting greater floods, intensifying also low water periods, making them longer, and limiting groundwater recharge. So the decision makers, urban planners, have a certain number of solutions before them to face up to these effects. And most have the intervention of vegetation, find the functionality of a soil, even in urban areas that is more conducive to the requirements. So there are tools, digital tools, hydraulic models to evaluate the future projects that will use these lasting solutions.
Regarding the strategic risk management approach, it represents the first approach combining risk and futures. Next, it allows the company to have an integrated view of its strategic risks with an influence diagram. It shows the role of smart technologies in securing the corporate strategic objectives. It allows the company to anticipate how strategic risks might change in the mid and long term and to timely adaptation measures. And it provides the basis for the utility master plan. There is this Chinese proverb that says that happiness in your life doesn't depend so much on the game you have on your hands, but on the way you play your cards. But for utilities like ours, they are assets intensive and depend on assets. That's not true. So the way you plan it and you do the things at first time, it will really set the game for the future. So it really must be well planned.
The future is intelligent blue-green city, which just by putting intelligent, it means new technology to reduce emission of pollutants per capita, and blue-green city improving the quality of life health, which prevent urban sprawl, which is degrading surrounding environments.
Cities should become a key actors in the global impact reduction and climate adaptation. This can be achieved with the development of international network where information, knowledge, and innovations are shared. And as we know so far, UNESCO is fulfilling this mission with devotion, and we are supporting, of course. In the end, City of Future should be a synergistic system supporting high quality of life, culture, and education. Next, please. Yes, and exactly the way forward for the eco-hydrology and sustainable megacities development is related, first of all, to the alliance of environment, engineering, economy, and society. But it should be supported with emerging fields such as artificial intelligence as a basis for smart network management or big data analysis, or citizen science, generating the involvement of the society.
The question of port city and resilience is an important one. And we think of resilience often as a way of bouncing back to a level that we had before. But I think the question of resilience is a much more complex one in port cities, for example. We are talking about environmental resilience. That's after a flood coming back to an origin state, but there's also social resilience, the way in which we react to strikes, for example. There is political resilience. There's all kinds of different resilience according to specific actors.
There's a choice to be made
by the nation and the state about how to help. And the key thing is to really understand the mindset and the challenges holistically faced by those megacities and figure out how to bring tools to bear in partnership, in addition to the regulatory role, which is also very important. But really understanding the challenges faced at the local level are very important, and allowing for innovation and creativity.
So why source separation? In fact, it's the new challenge in wastewater and in sanitation systems is to move forwards to resource recovery and not only end-of-pipe system and waste treatments. Because in the wastewater you have resources that you can collect and reuse in our worlds. You have nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus that can be used for agriculture and that we need for agriculture, organic matter and also water. And these different elements are not divided equally into different streams in wastewater.
The members of the YSC, along with youth organizations and networks working on the issues of water, megacities, and climate crisis got together to discuss the water challenges related to megacities and global change. Each one brought their own knowledge and experiences to share in the firm belief that youth can be the drivers addressing such challenges in the world.
We call all of the present decision makers and other stakeholders to acknowledge the youth perspectives on the issues of water, megacities, and global change, to open up spaces and opportunities to include the youth and the marginalized communities. Third, to take a holistic approach to understand the interlinkages between water, climate, and livelihoods. And lastly, to keep in mind the local ecology, geography, and social and political economy of the region for any policies and solutions.
I believe that the communications have really emphasized a certain number of points that are very important indeed with regard to the subject that we are dealing with, water, megacities, and climate change. It has shown the importance of the coming together of a certain number of actors in water management. That is the civil society and its political representatives, the researchers, the scientists and technicians of the different service companies working in the field of water, the structure of which is ARCEAU based on this structure. It has also shown that the solutions to the problems that arise can only be multidisciplinary, otherwise they will be missing out on their objective.
If we look at participation in this pre-conference, we can indeed celebrate the outcome. Over 1,000 people have connected each day to listen to the 45 presentations that took place on a number of diverse topics, whether it be holistic water management, business continuity, resilience to disaster. All these issues cover the various aspects of water in urban areas. And so the high participation rate indicates the relevance of this pre-conference and of the upcoming conference.
Urban population need and demand water services in adequate quantity and quality. Given now the recent news that we heard from the United States that water is now in Wall Street, so that make us as well think in a different manner of what we can do in megacities concerning water, because this will impact mostly megacities. At the same time, there are different types of contamination problems, those for developing countries, megacities, but as well those for developed country cities. This is teaching us that we still need to protect water and to try and to use it in a wisely manner, giving it not only a price to water, but as well a proper value. It is imperative that those of us who are decision makers adopt innovative technological measures and develop efficient urban planning tools, which is a challenge because cities have too many problems and water is only an additional one. Since hydrometeorological disasters are more frequent, we will need to have a more integrated water resources institutions.
So the object of this message to the Climate Ambition Summit, which aims at supporting the World Alliance of Megacities, the structure of which was sketched out in the course of the EauMega 2015 conference, the alliance, the aim of which is to favor cooperation between the different stakeholders, including those involved in research, the different public policies that have a strong influence on the issues of water, and the different megacities at the world scale. The current situation of the megacities differs with different climates, different socioeconomic situations, the availability of different pressures on water resources, but also with the great variability of initiatives and solutions that are taken. Now, all these initiatives and solutions must be shared, and all the more so because the climate, economic, and social conditions are changing faster and faster, and this militates for more intense discussions.
Urbanization is growing throughout the world. Megacities are more and more numerous around the world, and therefore water resource issues are all the more important. Cities amplify water issues, but also have greater resources. Adapting to climate change in one way or another is always linked to the issue with water. The presentations during this pre-conference have illustrated the various ways of addressing these issues, whether it be technical solutions, management solutions, and the objectives of the organizers have been met, I believe.